to really understand what had happened, and to know that maybe I could be a part of making that change and helping other folks come out of the trauma. So that was my difference. I'm not saying that I'm clear of everything, but I'm saying I'm not stuck where I was when I first woke up. I'm not still laying in the bed of my, and being of despair of how they lied to me. So they lied. Now what am I going to do to change it? How can I help
Well,
other people?
you got to go through the stages of grief and the detox of realizing that your whole life that you've been fed a bunch of BS.
Right.
The
Right.
most traumatic thing to me, I'm recovered from it now, but nothing was more traumatic to me than finding out that the people behind this stuff, they blacker than me. That hurt my feelings so bad. I had to do the math at least 400 times before I would even accept that I was right. My feelings was, but it caused the trigger effect. As I recovered from that realization and verification process, it made me see beyond the blood in my eye. Now I'm staring at the moment of truth like the bull at the last stroke of the bullfight. I could see the matador beyond the cape. I could see the fraud behind the curtain. I could see Geppetto pulling Pinocchio's strings, telling him to tell these lies.
Mm-hmm.
My feelings was hurt, but as I recovered from those hurt feelings, I started to have a different position and perspective of looking at the devil in his face. And everything that they did to us to separate us, I got to work to undo that. I don't know if I'll be successful because there's still going to be some idiots going to hate somebody because of the way they look.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Never knowing that the enemy don't care how you look, he coming at both of y'all ass. It's the same enemy. The enemy that sent them to do the dirt they didn't want to do, that was because they was trying to stop their babies from getting ate. Right? Then some of them was willing participants. Some of them to this day hold that viewpoint. That's okay. Because the guillotine will fix them. I just want to be the one pull the lever. I want a whole bunch of guillotines connected to one lever so it'll make a song when it start going down the line. I call it my guillotine concerto.
Off with their heads.
Off with their mucking heads.
Well, it's just, like I said, my heart has always been, for trying to help folks, come through something, as a former pastor and all that. It's always about helping folks come through. But when you have to try to go back and get people out of something that you had a part of putting them in, you know what I mean? You told them that this was.
That gives you a higher sense of duty to want to do it, but it makes you more frustrated doing it because you remember you used to teach it.
Yeah, that's the part.
And,
That
and,
part.
and it comes with a sense of shame as you trying to tell somebody that I was tricked too.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't have told you that bullshit. The mind control, the mental trap, the illusion that they paint, it's a compelling story. The greatest story ever told that ain't true. They tell you it's the greatest story ever told. They just don't tell you that Josephus Flavius wrote it. And that it was never a religious book, but it was a whole theater played out before they had TVs and radios in the play format. That's why you got the verses in the Bible. Because all of the verses is somebody remembering their lines. The more verses you can remember, you can play any part if you can remember the whole thing. They use the same format in order to create Hafiz in Islam. Because the ones who gonna rise up to be the leaders of a clan, to try to expand reach and join the other clans and to get the imposters off the land, they have to control them, so they use the religious paradigm. Christianity didn't work on all them people in the Middle East. They was too volatile. They needed a volatile savior. So they saturate him with all these Catholics in order to influence what they need him to teach. So now he got to go to his Bible scholars in order to verify his revelations, in order to make sure that he translating correctly what the Spirit is telling him, and they telling them the wrong answer on purpose.
Me. All of these things have transpired for me within the past, I would say, decade. I am 47, and I just found out that my family may not be my family.
How do you think that happened?
Oh, it's a lot from what I'm understanding. So I do know that the two individuals that raised me may not be my biological parents. I know for a fact the paternal connection is definitely not my father. The maternal connection may be a part of the lineage, but she was not my biological mother.
So you really could have. Do you got siblings older than you?
No. And ironically, I am the eldest grandchild, supposedly, on both sides. Now, the trick thing to that is, and I don't know if, I know that things relate to me different than they do to other people. So I'm coming to know of myself as someone who, I do have discernment. And I'm fortunate enough to be one who can watch oracles, and I can pick out my storyline with no problem. So I know that my father was an elder male. I also know that he left me an inheritance. Now, within me coming to know about this inheritance, and ironically, the way all of that came about is kind of how this supposed family was attempting to trick me to claim my sovereignty, to rescind all of my documents so that I can become someone else. However, it didn't work out that way. But I'm one who realizes that nothing is coincidental. So I know that my spirit team has been guiding me. My ancestors have been guiding me to take steps for me to get closer to what I'm supposed to do. But I found out, and ironically, going back to the system, because there's a lot of uptick in the oracle community that speaks of me and the situation that's going on with the regards to inheritance and all the people that are attacking me spiritually and attempting to attack me physically, all of the attempts on my life.
You know, there's millions of y'all, right?
Say that one more time.
I said, you do know it's millions of y'all, right?
I do realize that. Yes, I do. Even from just watching the oracles, there are quite a few of them who are going through similar situations. And I ran across something that spoke about, I'll use New York, for example, the amount of starseeds that they basically killed off there. The amount of starseeds that exist that they've actually did destiny swaps or attempted to take their inheritances.
Those don't work. Those always have what's called a residual snapback.
And that's what I'm going through right now. Because those that I knew as my family, fake friends, ex-lovers that I now know were sent in to me that were pretty much all damn near down low. It's like waking up and realizing that I'm in a movie. And then I listen to the oracles talk about how my life is already portrayed. I'm part of a Truman Show. People literally are surveillancing me without my consent. I've had doctors speak on me and attempt to take things from me medically to figure out who I am. It's a lot going on, and all of these things were done behind the scenes, okay, so that when spoke.
Before you go any further, there's a couple things that you need to be aware of. They already know who the you is. When they
Yeah,
start
I realized that.
when they start trying to take bloods and they trying to figure out if they can bypass Prime Creator and create clones, they know who you is. They know who I am. None of us we be thinking we gotta go through all like you said they tried to trick you into the sovereignty paperwork. Oh, that's BS. They know who we are. We don't got to do none of that. All we gotta do is be self-aware. And they've been following me since before when I was in my mama womb, they was monitoring her for my birthday because they was dreading that I might possibly be born on November the 10th. And they was dead spot on at 10:45. So they can mix it however they want to mix it. They was doing an experiment called nature versus nurture when they was swapping babies in the delivery room, but they was also taking families' babies. Like they'll take a baby from one family and then they will act like they're doing an adoption to put it in the family that don't got the same wiring as the bloodline the child from to determine if he gonna be a problem child for a different breed of parent. And a lot of us been problem child for them different parents. They don't understand us. They can't figure us out. Some of us be doing shit like 2-year-olds be glowing in the dark and levitating and all that, and they don't know what the hell. So they try to take us to the doctor to fix us, but they not
Yeah.
fixing us. They fucking us up on purpose. They know what they doing. That don't have one. Soon as you realize that they been knew who you was from the day and time that you came in, they ain't never took their eyes off you. Look, I used to be in the woods in the middle of the night and know these motherfuckers is watching me and be like, where in the fuck is they hiding at?
Yeah.
And where is they? I know they watching me. I can feel it. And then I come across a book years later called The Sense of Being Stared At. They've been watching. They know who we are. There's no mistake about it. Because they have to keep track of us so they can know who to give it back to when they lose. Because they definitely lost. And the
And
Doge watchdog is proving that.
and when I think the last video I saw you, it was on a group of people. I can't remember exactly what it was. You did mention the nature versus nurture, and it did trigger some things because ironically now I knew that I was different from as far back as I could remember. However, I cannot remember anything before the ages of 5. And me watching the oracles again, my story resonates with me very strongly. So it was a mention of a child being abused and consistently being beat in the head to the point where the child had to go to the hospital and had swelling on the brain. And ironically, I have a crack on my forehead where my third eye is to be. And the oracle was stating how in my childhood I would speak of things that they didn't understand and made them fearful because I was seeing things that I wasn't present for and they didn't understand it. And even still to this day, with everything that's going on with them attempting to run my character, my name and everything through the mud and on the dark web and all of these judges and clerks and all these politicians and government, the whole the whole MK Ultra thing, like to really open my eyes and see what my life has truly been. It shocks the hell out of me.
So what do you think you need help with the most right now?
Right now, if I had to choose something, it's learning how to get off of me whatever is on me. There was a point in time when
Ain't
my
nothing
gifts
on
was
you. Ain't nothing on you.
okay. So what am I possibly either not doing, or maybe I'm still suppressing? I'm not sure, because there was a time when my gifts were so clear and vivid that it would be like watching a television screen. I could literally close my eyes and I can literally foresee things that clear, and it's not that anymore.
That's because the faculty is atrophy. The only way to rebuild it is to let your imagination flow with it. Remember what they used to say, don't let me catch you daydream
Yeah.
in school? That's what you was doing. You was building your ability to see the whole spectrum psychic field. You use daydreaming as a child because there's nobody to teach you. So you automatically born wired to daydream in order to practice developing the psychic faculty. the ones of us that do that, we end up in special ed, we end up medicated and all kind of stuff. And the only way right now, you focus on your cleanses and your heavy metal cleanses, because they didn't probably poisoned you with aluminum and
Yeah.
arsenic.
I had to recently just last year I went through cancer treatment because they diagnosed me with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I had to get 7 transfusions.
Do you know what that
And I
comes
knew
from?
it wasn't coincidental because I know that they were poisoning me, because twice I was sick to the point where I felt as though I was dying. I laid up in the bed for like 7 and 8 days each time, and I just talked to Divine.
Do you know what non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is?
It's a blood cancer, isn't it?
They tell you, okay, when they say lymphoma, means lymphatic system. Hodgkin's
Okay.
disease is an entirely different disease. That's why it's called non-Hodgkin's lymphoma,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm gonna tell you where it comes from, and it's gonna shock you. Women using deodorant that's laced with aluminum that's clogging up the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system clogged up creates tumors from the body trying to correct and get the toxins out. So what do? They massively overload you with toxins, either radiation treatment or chemotherapy. Both
So
of them are toxic.
that's what they did. I had chemo, and ironically, there was no mention of a tumor. They were just curious as to why my blood count kept dropping and where the blood was going.
Mm-hmm.
And I know prior to that, I had not used the deodorants for quite some time. I'm one of those who, I do know the importance of, not doing that. I hadn't used that in years.
But you used to use it regularly when you was younger, right?
When I was younger, yes. And back then I didn't know the difference between antiperspirant versus a deodorant. Like, I didn't know about the aluminum and all those things back during that time either.
Yeah. Strangling the system.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what the deficiency that make your blood drop and it causes you to suffer anemia, the condition is liver congestion. You have excessive blood buildup in the liver, which limits the amount of blood available to be pushed through the system.
Yeah, I thought of that too. And again, with my whole situation, because it's challenging and I'm still attempting to figure it out, because I have been blocked financially. They've tapped my devices, the whole 9 yards.
They like to keep us. They like to keep the chosen ones broke because they know if we got money, we gonna fix the world.
Yeah, I had even got to the point where I walked away from the corporations as far as being an employee, and sought to do my own thing. So I had started an elder care thing in Rhode Island, and I would do like little food gigs for community festivals and things of that nature. And I got into gardening, and slowly but surely it all tanked. It all tanked.
That wasn't your path.
You know what, Rod? I feel I don't think the senior aspect was, but as far as the gardening, like, I feel now that I kind of see things a little bit more than what I did growing up, I feel as though I am to be the example of unconditional love. I feel like I'm one here to share the story of the matriarch, and I stand firm in that shit too.
It is rules that go with unconditional love too.
Yeah, I know. I had to find that out because, again, I only really socialized with family, but the closest family that I did constantly associate with were my children. So they even utilized my children too, right?
Yeah,
Identification stolen, the whole 9 yards. Like,
where do you think? Listen, if you don't think they're gonna use your children, where do you think women get the idea, the concept, to disassociate the father from the child they made together and to use the child to punish the father? Who do you think came up with that? That's not a matriarchal thing. Women don't, healed women don't think like that. That's only some trauma-based women that's operating from traumas that they
Yeah.
can't overcome, listening to other traumatized victims, trying to tell them how to X out the trauma by causing more trauma. This is
Yeah.
because why the baby's messed up right now to this day. The baby's messed up now because you got traumatized people raising them, traumatizing them, trying to under the pretense of avoiding trauma, they giving them worse trauma. So instead of
Hmm.
let your baby spend time with his father, you rather kill it. That don't make sense. They call it abortion.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Under the matriarchy, abortion was only allowed under certain conditions. I'm not gonna get into all that, but if the woman didn't want the child, she didn't have to keep it, but she had to give it to the daddy. There's
Yeah,
most,
it's
there's very few men who have the option to be a father to their child that know it's his child that's gonna go the other way. It's very, very, very few, unless they them people that look like us and ain't us. It's a lot of them. But
yeah,
generally,
I'm finding that out the hard
it's
way.
more people that's not those people on earth than it is those people that look like us that ain't us. And
Yeah.
most men, when given the opportunity, would rather be a participant in the raising and the upbringing of their children in multiple capacities, not just as the guy to go out and go to work and bring the money home at the end of the week. That's a slave concept that has nothing to do with building a household.
Hmm.
There's nothing in this system designed for us to build a household and functional families, which is only going to accelerate the decay of the society because it's going to keep producing more trauma on top of trauma, generation to generation, until somebody see it. And
Yeah.
the more it's done, the harder it is to see it because what's the trauma looks normal. A lot of women think they sweat up and down they doing what's right, but they figure because they carry the child as hers and hers alone. That's not matriarchal thinking. That's patriarchal thinking, indoctrination through feminism.
Well,
Women
I'm
never
thankful
thought
I
like
didn't
that
have that
until they
mindset.
encountered feminists.
I'm glad I didn't have that mindset. And